there has been a significant escalation of tensions between India and Pakistan, including the measures which the Minister has outlined. India and Pakistan have engaged in large-scale military hostilities in the past in this region, and there is a real risk that the nation could revert to military conflict again. So what can the UK do to encourage the de-escalation of tensions whilst ensuring the eradication of the terrorist organisations and their networks, support networks wherever they exist? And finally, the Secretary of State will be aware the Minister will be aware there have been protests in the UK outside the Indian and Pakistan High Commission, which have been characterised by provocative language and gestures, including what appears to be a throat-slitting motion by an alleged Pakistan official. There have also been windows smashed at the Pakistan High Commission in London, and an individual has been arrested and charged. So does the Minister agree, recognise the importance of proactive work with communities across the UK to ensure that we do not see a downturn in community relations here in the UK?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for his engagement on these questions. I'm sure the whole House shares with him the horror at the details of this incident, the targeting of the victims and the way it was carried out. Let me say first about the scenes on UK streets. Firstly, we are aware of reports of the video that my honourable friend refers to. The police, the Metropolitan Police are investigating, so I won't provide any further commentary on that particular incident, but it is obviously concerning. We take our responsibilities under the Vienna Convention for the security of all embassies and indeed High Commission, so both the Pakistani and Indian High Commission will receive all of the support of the UK state to ensure that they stay safe. As my honourable friend has said, and I know many in this House feel, these issues have long been discussed with passion on British streets, and we call on all sides, all community leaders, all involved, to call for calm at a time of tension in the region.
Foreign Secretary Dame Pretty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for Smethwick for securing the question, and also my honourable friend, the member for Harrow East, for the support he's given to India, because he also tabled a question today too on this. Mr. Speaker, my condolences, thoughts and prayers are also with all those affected by this murderous, violent terrorism that has taken place in Faglam. And I recognise for India and the diaspora communities in the UK in particular, this has been a really difficult week. This was an act of terrorism, and we should call it out for exactly for what it is. And it is part of a long-standing pattern of attacks on civilians, visitors to the region and also minority communities. And the UK must always stand with our friends during times of this nature. We have a series of long-standing security and counter-terrorism partnerships with India going back to the New Delhi Declaration in 2002 and the India-UK Strategic Partnership in 2016, the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership announced in 2022 and the UK-India 2030 roadmap agreed under the last government. So under that, security issues have been absolutely watertight, which is why we must be always in lockstep with our friends in India. So can the Minister tell us what information the UK government has on those responsible for carrying out these terrorist attacks? Does the government believe that Lashkar-e-Taiba, the terrorist group prescribed in the UK, bears responsibility? Is the government aware of any cross-border links to Pakistan of the perpetrators of this terrorist act? And given that attacks seem to take place at the same time when high-profile US politicians visit India, this is not the first time, has the government got a view on whether this is a coincidence, or does it demonstrate a pattern of targeted and deliberately timed attacks? We know the Prime Minister spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi last week, but has the UK provided any specific support in response to this terror attack and taken any practical steps to assist our friends in India? Mr. Speaker, has the government undertaken an assessment of the security implications of this attack on the UK? If Lashkar-e-Taiba or a front linked to them are responsible, then there are disturbing reports emerging that this terrorist group may have had engagement with Hamas. Has the government made assessment of the relationship between groups causing terror and destabilisation in Kashmir and those pursuing violence and terrorism that threaten our interests and global peace and security? Can the Minister give an update on the actions being taken to prevent tensions from escalating to communities in the UK, including protections of the High Commission, which has already been mentioned? And will the UK leverage its influence in easing tensions between India and Pakistan?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Right Honourable Lady for her questions. India is a friend to the UK, and we have been clear in the depth of our friendship in our response to this incident. She wouldn't expect me to comment in detail on intelligence and security matters in relation to this attack, but I can assure her that we are looking very closely. And she's right, terrorism, wherever it is found in the UK, is a threat to global peace and security. I won't comment further on this dispatch box on links between some of the groups that she mentioned, but I can assure her that our security agencies take these matters very, very seriously, as she would expect. She asks important questions about the Indian High Commission. As I said in my earlier answer, we will offer our full support. They have 24/7 enhanced protection outside the High Commission, and it will be a top priority for the government to ensure that no harm comes to any Indian diplomats or indeed any other diplomats here in the UK. We are playing our role to try and ensure that the tensions do not escalate. We are, many of us in this House are familiar with the tense and storied history between the two countries. We are friends to them both, and we do not want to see uncontrolled escalation in tensions.
Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I pay my respects to those who have lost loved ones in the horrific terrorist attack in India-administered Jammu Kashmir. My thoughts are with them at this devastating time. Many of my constituents have written to me about the escalation of hostilities here in the UK. So can the Minister say what conversations he's having with India and Pakistan counterparts to address this?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this escalation is unsettling for communities within the UK. Both British Pakistanis and British Indians are valued parts of our community, but we look to all community and faith leaders to spread a message that now is a time for coming together across religious and ethnic differences, not to play out the tensions between two states on the streets of the UK, and we will continue to make that message.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by associating myself with the comments already made, reflecting on the grief of the communities torn apart last week. Tuesday's horrific murders were utterly devastating. Those responsible must face the full weight of the law. The escalation of tensions between India and Pakistan are alarming, as are reports of incidents of fire being exchanged by soldiers at the border and threaten to destabilise the entire region. What's vital now is that leaders in both countries commit to an open dialogue and wider efforts to de-escalate. We hope this includes India committing to reinstate the Indus Waters Treaty, the suspension of which threatens water access for Pakistanis, and Pakistan reopening the airspace to Indian-owned airlines. The UK must engage with both governments and encourage a return to dialogue and a retreat from retaliatory action, ensuring that decisions taken in the wake of Tuesday's horrific attack do not endanger more lives. So can the Minister confirm what conversations he has had with officials in New Delhi on reinstating the Indus Waters Treaty and with officials in Islamabad on reopening its airspace?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is vital that effective channels of engagement to safeguard stability in the region exist, and we're encouraging both parties to that effect. There has been a lot of speculation about the diplomatic measures that have been announced so far. As we understand it, international agreements are in abeyance rather than being rescinded, and of course, in the long term, the proper functioning of water management in the Indus water catchment area is absolutely vital for both sides of the line.
Imran Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The whole House is united in its condemnation of the horrific attack killing 26 people in Pahalgam, Kashmir, which has been rightly condemned by all in the region, and we must now see a full and independent investigation where those responsible are brought to justice. Mr. Speaker, the response by the Indian government has been somewhat concerning, with the unilateral action taken to revoke the Indus Waters Treaty risking the lives and livelihoods of millions in Pakistan. We are now also hearing reports of crackdowns in Kashmir, 1,500 people rounded up by police and bulldozer tactics on households. Hardline groups have issued statements promising reprisal attacks, death threats and action against every Muslim in India. Mr. Speaker, Kashmir continues to be a flashpoint between the two nuclear neighbours. So does the Minister agree with me that the international community must now seriously focus on de-escalation and long-term peace in the region? And can he also set out what the government is doing to ensure that Kashmiris do not face further persecution or oppression?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is clearly a time of heightened tensions which inevitably invites concern both in the region and here in the UK. We are, as I said, engaged with both states in order to try and find the most effective way that this terrible incident can be prevented from ever repeating, but also to ensure continued stability in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I asked for a statement this week on this particular issue at Business Questions last week. So I'm grateful to you for making sure that there is a statement through an urgent question. The reality of this terrorist attack, which was well organised, well coordinated, was, despite the Minister's words, these 26 men who were murdered systematically by being shot in the head were either Hindu or Christian. And there was a deliberate Islamist attack on those tourists who were just going about their business in a peaceful manner. These terrorists were well equipped, they were well coordinated. And the sad reality is this: whilst the government may give expressions of condolences and support for the people of India, the fact remains that the terrorist bases that exist along the line of control in the illegal part of Kashmir, illegally occupied by Pakistan, still continue to operate across that line of control. So will the government now commit to full support for India in apprehending the terrorists responsible and bringing the backers of those terrorists to justice as well, and take all steps to support the erosion and elimination of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member has come to have an argument, but I'm not sure which part of the statement he didn't like. We should not, until the investigation is concluded, we should not speculate on the nature of the attack. I will tell the honourable gentleman we will do everything that we can to ensure that those who committed this horrific attack are brought to justice, and India will have our support in that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share the comments made in this House, horrified by this terrorist attack, and my thoughts are with the families and the victims and those in India. We've seen some really worrying scenes play out in London, as the my honourable member for Smethwick mentioned. We cannot let this escalate onto UK shores. All of us bear responsibility to help de-escalate tensions. What steps is the UK taking to support international bodies, especially the United Nations, on its calls for de-escalation intentions?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we've spoken at the at senior levels to both states, and we have made clear the importance of maintaining stability in the region at this time.
Abdul Hussain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to echo the words of condemnation over the horrific terror attacks in Pahalgam, taking the lives of 26 innocent tourists, and I express my heartfelt condolences to all those that have been affected. Mr. Speaker, the rapid escalation of events following this tragedy have been deeply worrying. India's unfounded claims against Pakistan is a dangerous and irresponsible reaction to the tragedy suffered in Kashmir. The unilateral and illegal decision to suspend the Indus Water Treaty threatens to cut the lifeline of 200 million people in Pakistan, and it cannot stand. Mr. Speaker, I ask the Minister to join me in expressing concern over the knife-edge position these two nations are at, and express a call for an adherence to the guidance set under international bodies of law. as well as a plea for the calming of the situation, which, if exacerbated, will have severe consequences spreading much further than that region alone.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think I've set out our views on the importance of stability in the region already this afternoon, and I agree with the Honourable Member that it will be critical for all actors and international partners to ensure the long-term sustainability of the Indus River system.
Bill Bretton.
Mr. Speaker, and I welcome the statement from the Minister today. In light of the awful terror attack in Indian-administered Kashmir, what work is the government undertaking to consult the Kashmiri diaspora here in the UK and identify their concerns?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for the question. Both the British Foreign Office and other parts of the UK government engage regularly with the British Kashmiri community, which are an important part of so many communities across the UK, and will continue to do so.
Julia.
I'm sure the government recognises that the strategic aim of this sort of terrorist atrocity is to provoke indiscriminate retaliation and undermine peaceful relations between neighbouring countries between which there may be some history of hostility. So will he impress on the Indian government the necessity of focusing on the actual perpetrators and not the wider community? And will he impress on the Pakistani government the importance in good faith of tracking down those responsible?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. Too much in the region I am responsible for, and indeed in this country we've seen terrorist attacks aimed in exactly the way the honourable gentleman describes, designed to try and provoke tension, intercommunal hostility and a breakdown of law and order. And it is important in this area, as is right across the world, that there is a proper law enforcement-led response based on a focus on the actual perpetrators, exactly as the gentleman.
That's sharp.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I first add my condolences and thoughts and prayers to all of those victims of this heinous terrorist attack in occupied Kashmir. Many of my constituents, I have a large diaspora of Kashmiri diaspora in my constituency of Bradford West, and many have reached out with deep concerns, following on from many have mentioned the Indus River Treaty. This is Pakistan has already been suffering from the effects of the floods from years ago and not recovered from that. And in times of escalation and times of these troubles, it's in communities at large, be it India or Pakistan, that suffer. What message can the Minister give to my constituents to reassure them that the UK is doing all they can to de-escalate and bring things back to normal and bring those perpetrators to account?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are focused on holding perpetrators to account. I'm myself familiar with the acute natural disaster issues that face Pakistan. I was there myself in 2010 during the then disastrous floods, and I recognise the vital importance of the Indus River system both to India and Pakistan, and its vital cooperation between the two states in order to manage that vital system. I would say there is a lot of speculation about what has been decided and what has been agreed. As we understand it, diplomatic treaties are being held in abeyance, and there is still space for a long-term answer to some of these questions.
Luke Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As an officer of the APPG with British Hindus and with a considerable Indian-Pakistani community, I was particularly shocked and saddened by the news of the horrific murder of 26 people last Tuesday. I've received many emails from constituents raising their concerns. It is of particular worry that reports of Hindus and Christians being targeted. This race-based terror is unacceptable anywhere in the world. Please, can the Minister confirm what steps they are taking to encourage both India and Pakistan to investigate these terrible crimes, but also to ensure lines of communication are kept open to avoid a further escalation in conflict?
Minister.
We are encouraging direct lines of communication, and we are, of course, encouraging all Pakistani assistance to the investigation of these horrific crimes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I also associate myself with the comments made by the Minister and other colleagues in this House of condemning this innocent killing of 26 people? Now, with the tension between India and Pakistan running high and resulting in arrests, does the Minister agree with me, which is also, I think, a number of people have touched on this point, is that we must not let this issue boil over onto our streets? If anything, we should be working to ensure we get the message of peace and hope to that part of the world. Yeah. And in light of this tit-for-tat actions being taken by Pakistan and India, does the Minister further agree that we need to encourage an open, independent inquiry to establish the facts and ensure accountability and help restore calm? That is far better for this world than India and Pakistan nuclear powers going to war.
Minister.
My honourable friend is right, of course, that peace and calm it is vital for communities here and indeed across the world. The two states are talking to each other, which is welcome. It is understandable the concerns that India has for its own security in the light of such a horrific incident. It is clearly taken steps to try and establish the facts of this incident as best it can, and it will have British support to do so.
Sir Gavin Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Language is incredibly important at a time of such tragedy, and right across the House we all condemn this terrorist incident, but a number of constituents of mine have been particularly concerned about how the BBC described this as militants as against describing it for what it is, which is a terrorist attack. Will the Minister use his position to make representations to the BBC to make sure that they understand about the important use of language?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I resist calls for ministers to police the BBC's language too much, but let me be clear. This was a horrific terrorist attack, and that is the view of the British government.
Oregon.
The Kargil incursion, the Chitty Singh Bora attack, the hijacking of Air India Flight 814, the attack on Gandhinagar, the attack on the Lok Sabha itself, the attack on the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, the suicide bomb attack at Pulwama that killed 44, now 26 tourists murdered at Pahalgam. Since you and I were first elected to this House, Mr. Speaker, we have that as just a short list of the Pakistan-based terror organizations activities like Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Toiba and its derivatives like the Resistance Front. They destabilize international security between two nuclear states, and they cause unwarranted tension in community relations here. Is it not time to make the support that we give to Pakistan conditional on them finally dealing with and closing down the terrorist training camps that they harbour?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we expect all of our friends to work closely on the shared international scourge of terrorism. Pakistan herself has faced a series of deeply damaging terrorist attacks in recent months and years, and we press on them, as we do all of our allies in the region, to take the steps necessary both to investigate the terrorist threats which they face them, but also those that face their neighbours.
Ayub Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I share the sentiments echoed by all honourable members in this House? And rightly so. It is crucial to condemn unequivocally all forms of violence, irrespective of its source, and our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. The recent incident is a stark reminder of the fragile peace that hangs by a thread in this region, a region that has suffered too long from recurring cycles of violence. The intricate history of Kashmir requires a diplomatic approach underpinned by international cooperation. Does the Secretary of State agree with me that the UK's role as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council must be to encourage and support efforts that prioritise dialogue and reconciliation between India and Pakistan? And would he further agree that the law-abiding people of Kashmir deserve to live in peace and security without the shadow of perpetual conflicts, and this will only be achieved if they have the right to self-determine?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, the people of Kashmir, both Indian administered and Pakistani administered, do have the right to live in safety, and we want to see that right exercised. Of course, there must be dialogue between India and Pakistan at this time of heightened tensions, but I would say that India does also have the right, in the face of such a horrific attack, to investigate, to find the perpetrators, and to hold them to justice for these terrible crimes.
Reginald Hopkins.
Mr. Speaker, a number of my constituents in Luton South and South Bedfordshire have expressed their deep concern about the developments in Kashmir, and we all condemn the attacks and growing tensions in the strongest possible terms. Does the Minister agree with me that advocating for a peaceful resolution in Kashmir is also part of maintaining community cohesion in the UK, given so many of us have constituents who have family members and friends in the region?
Minister.
I do, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the UK supports a peaceful resolution of the long-standing issues in Kashmir between India and Pakistan. It's a matter for the two countries, and we will support them in those endeavours.
John Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join with members across the House in condemning this act of terrorism. But the honourable gentleman will know his party's manifesto pledge to pursue a new strategic partnership with India, and I welcome that. But could he explain to the House what steps are being made in regard to that pledge? Because it will be by concerted diplomatic efforts, but it will also be by leadership from the dispatch box around recharacterising our commitment to India, that people will gain strength from this government's response.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful to the honourable gentleman to give me the opportunity to cast away any doubt that there might be. We stand with India in the face of this horrific attack. We have, at the very highest levels, been in direct contact with the Indian government. This is an absolutely atrocious incident, and they have our support in trying to bring those perpetrators to justice. I will leave it, if he will forgive me, I will leave it to the Minister responsible for India to provide an update to the House in slower time on the state of our relationship. It continues to grow from strength to strength.
Mohammed Jassim.
Speaker, in light of the recent tragic attack on civilians in Kashmir, which we all condemn, what step is the government taking to de-escalate tensions and to urge the governments of India and Pakistan to engage in a transparent and impartial investigation to establish facts, while also pushing for renewed diplomatic engagement to address all outstanding issues, including the core dispute of Kashmir, through meaningful dialogue and a commitment to peace that prioritises the lives and rights of all Kashmiris?
Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, we have been engaged with both governments. The long-standing position of the UK is that it is for India and Pakistan to find a lasting resolution to the situation in Kashmir. It must take into account the wishes of the Kashmiri people, and it's not for us to prescribe a solution. We will continue in those efforts.
Senator Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has outlined the government's been in communication with both India and Pakistan and the risk of escalation. I'm wondering if the Minister can tell the House if the Foreign Secretary has been in communication with any other regional powers. I'm thinking specifically about China, about the situation and the risk of escalation.
Minister. Mr. Speaker, honestly, I haven't spoken to the Foreign Secretary in the last 24 hours, so I'm not totally sure, but I'll write to the member and let him know.
Debbie Evan.
Mr. Speaker, and I'd also like to associate myself with the remarks about the condolences for the innocent families that have become victims themselves of this appalling attack. It's important that there is an evidence-based investigation, and I do hope that from what the Minister has said, Pakistan is assisting India in this, in identifying the perpetrators and ensure that they are brought to justice. Tensions are certainly high, both within India but also Pakistan. I appreciate the Minister's remarks as far as the assistance that is being provided at the moment, but can this be used as an opportunity to also look at the longer term issues that Kashmir has faced for
Mr. Speaker, I set out our position on the core disputes in Kashmir in the previous answer. I repeat that we do encourage the Pakistanis to cooperate fully with the Indian government in their efforts to investigate, and we hope that they will provide assistance. This obviously remains a time where they're of great heightened tension, so that direct dialogue is particularly important on these issues.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker, and I also join the Minister and the members of the House in my unequivocal condemnation of this heinous and cowardly act of terrorist violence. My hearts go out to the families and the victims, and we stand in full solidarity with them, as well as the civilian populations of India, Kashmir and wider Pakistan. As has been highlighted, the killings have heightened tensions in the subcontinent, and at present both nuclear-armed countries, India and Pakistan, are on a war footing. The escalation in military action will have ramifications globally, especially in the UK, where reactionary bigots and far-right politicians are sowing divisions amongst British Kashmiris, Indians and Pakistanis. My Kashmiri diaspora and myself and my Indian family and friends would like to know what specific steps the UK government is taking to help de-escalate these heightened tensions in the region and the increased tensions within our borders.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, we are seeking to play our full diplomatic role to help manage the heightened tensions between India and Pakistan and the concerns of the region. And it is vital that here in the UK, all of us in positions of influence at a community level do everything we can to ensure that those tensions do not play out on British streets.
Deirdre Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of my constituents in Ealing Southall have contacted me in the last few days to register their horror at the appalling terror attack in Kashmir, and I join the Minister in condemning this unequivocally. Will the Minister confirm that the UK stands firm against terror in any form? And will he further confirm what steps this government is taking to support our long history of community cohesion in diverse constituencies of this country like Ealing Southall?
Minister.
I can, Mr. Speaker, confirm that we stand against terrorism in all of its manifestations, and we will be working closely with all communities, including through colleagues in this House, to try and address the concerns that are being raised.
Nick Timothy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the consequences of mass immigration and radical diversity at home is we see foreign conflicts play out between diaspora communities in Britain, and we should all do everything possible to stop this domestic disintegration, including drastically curtailing immigration. But will the Minister take this opportunity to tell members of this House who have played the politics of communalism to stop playing with fire?
Minister.
I think the Honourable Gentleman's question is, will I condemn the existence of British Indian and British Pakistani communities? No, I won't. There is tension between those communities, which I have called for calm. If he is asking me whether I think there has been too much immigration over the last 14 years, yes, indeed. I'm very welcome to take guidance from Mr. Speaker on what your question was.
Just Southwell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank the Minister for making this statement? And I'd also like to associate myself in the condemnation of this horrific and cowardly attack on innocent people. Ilford South is home to a large diaspora of Indian and Pakistani descent. Following the horrific murder of these 26 tourists, their only crime was being in the wrong place at the wrong time when the terrorists orchestrated their heinous attack. India points the finger at Pakistan, and Pakistan denies any involvement. Both are nuclear powers. What steps is the government taking to de-escalate this particular situation?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, we've been engaged with both states extensively over the last few days, and we're taking all steps that we can in order to ensure that heightened tensions do not cause the risks of uncontrolled escalation.
Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Many constituents in my constituency of Wokingham have been hit hard by the recent massacre in Kashmir. The perpetrators of the massacre must face the full face of the law. An open dialogue between India and Pakistan is now vital to avoid an escalation of tensions over Kashmir. How is the government working to support efforts of de-escalation and prevent cross-border exchanges from escalating into a full-blown conflict?
Minister.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his important question. We will continue to work with both states on the issues that he outlines in the way that I've described over the course of the afternoon.
Stella, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is our common humanity that unites many of us in this House in our condemnation of a terrorist act and our condolences to the families affected, whether they have community links to this country or not. And I hear what the Minister says, and I support entirely his call for an investigation. Many of us do. What is troubling my British constituents who have family in the Kashmir region are the words of the Indian Defence Minister, who said that there would be a strong response in the coming days. Now, in previous crisis moments, we've had missile strikes, indeed, we've had airstrikes and special forces action from the Indian government. And we have seen an explosion in the last couple of days in anti-Muslim attacks in India as well. So what words of reassurance can the Minister offer my British constituents concerned about human rights around the world, concerned about family members, that this government will always speak up for innocent civilians wherever they may live and wherever they may find friends?
Minister.
My honourable friend makes important points. We do, of course, stand for human rights around the world. We will continue to work to try and address heightened tensions between India and Pakistan, and we will want to avoid a dangerous spiral of escalation in the region.
Joshua Reynolds.
Speaker, it's incumbent on us as an international community to engage with leaders on both sides. So can I ask the Minister specifically what he and the UK government have done so far to promote and ensure that an open dialogue stays open?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I say, we've spoken at a senior level to both governments, and we're encouraging direct contact. We understand that direct contact is in place.
Paul Wall.
Speaker, my constituents in Rochdale, particularly those from the Kashmiri and Pakistani communities, strongly condemn this terrorist atrocity in Pahalgam. But they're also worried about India's response, and particularly its suspension of the Indus Water Treaty, but also the bulldozing of homes of those not connected to this attack in any way. So does the Minister agree with me that the Kashmiri people should not be subjected to collective punishment, just as the people of Palestine have in Israel?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend for the question. As I hope has been clear in all of my answers, Mr. Speaker, a terrible terrorist attack has been perpetrated, and India has our full support in going after the perpetrators of that attack. We, of course, expect all of our partners to do that in accordance with their domestic standards and laws.
Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for his answers to the questions and for the calm way that he's replied. I think it's appreciated in this House. I travelled to that region some 4 or 5 years ago as chair of the APPG for freedom of religious belief. There was tension then, and there's greater tension now in every sense of the word. The slaughter of those tourists in that idyllic meadow in Kashmir can never be seen as anything other than pure, unadulterated evil. They killed people just simply because they were Hindus or they were Christians. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families who mourn their loved ones today. What steps can the Minister take to provide support for the government to deal with the terrorism, and how can we get the message to British citizens that they should under no circumstances whatsoever travel to that region?
Minister.
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. I will reiterate our travel advice. We advise against all travel to Jammu and Kashmir, except for travel by air to the city of Jammu, travel within the city, and travel within the Union Territory of Ladakh.
Sorry.
Speaker, people in India and around the world were horrified by the news of the terror attack last week in which 26 innocent tourists were killed in Jammu and Kashmir, and my thoughts are with all those who've lost loved ones. This was an appalling attack aimed clearly at destabilising the situation in Kashmir. In my constituency, I have a large Pakistani, Indian and Kashmiri communities, and many people are now very, very concerned about an escalation of tensions in the region. How is the British government working with the Indian government to support in the wake of this terror attack? And what more can you say about the constructive role that Britain has to play in finding a diplomatic resolution?
Minister.
I know my honourable friend reflects the strength of feeling in her constituency, as there are in so many of the constituencies represented in this House. We will continue to play our full diplomatic role, and we welcome the efforts of her and many colleagues across this House to engage right across the spectrum of their constituencies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Kashmiri community in Stoke-on-Trent will have condemned the appalling atrocities taking place last Tuesday, but that condemnation quickly turns to fear and anxiety about what that means for their friends and loved ones in both the India and Pakistani administered side of Kashmir. I've listened to the Minister's answers carefully about the government's position this is now an issue for India and Kashmir to resolve alone, and I welcome the actions the government is taking to reduce tensions. But long term, the peaceful settlement for this community will need help. It will need international facilitation, as per the UN resolutions 39 and 47. If we want to see self-determination for the people of Kashmir, it's going to take more than warm words from ministers. So can he set out what actions he will take through the UN and through his counterparts in other countries to ensure that the path to peace is something that is started to be walked quickly?
My honourable friend is a doughty advocate for the concerns of his constituents. The long-standing position of the United Kingdom is that it is for India and Pakistan to find a lasting resolution to the situation in Kashmir, taking into account the wishes of the Kashmiri people. It is not for us to prescribe a solution.
Laura Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many colleagues in this House, I was appalled by the terrorist attack in Kashmir, and my heart goes out to the victims and their loved ones. One thing that really worries me now is the hatred and threats and incitement that we have seen online since then, and I know this is deeply unsettling for many of my constituents in Aylesbury. Does the Minister agree that the incitement of hatred online is completely unacceptable, and can he share what measures the government is taking to monitor and act against this?
Mr. Speaker, we are aware of hatred being cited online in relation to events in the region. We condemn it utterly, and where the threshold is met for police action, it should be taken.
Christine Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share the horror of this despicable act of terrorism inflicted on 26 innocent people, many of whom are on holiday. One young man was on his honeymoon. My condolences are with all those affected, but the ripples are widespread and felt by the global Indian community, including my constituents in Winchborough. They raised their concerns with me about this incident, but they're also really fearful of what happens next. So can the Minister give my constituents assurances that the Government will work with international partners to support peace and stability in the region, and that community cohesion will remain a top priority for this Government?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, India and Pakistan are our friends. We have historic connections to both states and communities right across the region. We will continue to be committed to regional stability, and of course, we call for calm in our own streets.
Adam Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate my friend from Smethwick for securing this urgent question, but I do say to the Minister that this really should have been a statement. We're all horrified by the act of terror that we saw just days ago and condemn it without equivocation. I've heard from many of my constituents in Newcastle and Lyme in recent days from both diasporas, and it's important to know that many people are feeling this act of terror deeply in my community and up and down the United Kingdom. Mr. Speaker, India and Pakistan are two very important members of the Commonwealth, so can the Minister specifically outline what engagement the British Government had with the Commonwealth to help reduce tensions?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if my honourable friend would like a statement, he can stay for 45 minutes and he'll get another one from me. We have been in direct contact with both India and Pakistan and we will continue to do so.
Danny Beales.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his condolences and his strong condemnation of this horrific terror attack. I've been contacted, Mr. Speaker, by hundreds of families in my constituency over recent days who've been horrified about these events, and it's clear that the awful terror attack in Kashmir has sent shockwaves through the British Indian community and the global Hindu community more broadly. Overwhelmingly, Mr. Speaker, they speak of needing justice, and understandably so. And we all want to see peace, we all want to see de-escalation, but understanding that people will be held to account for these horrific crimes is vital to getting there. So I'd just like to press the Minister a bit more to be clear that the UK government, when it stands with India, is doing all it can to identify who is responsible for these events and who supports and funds them, so they can be held to account and justice can be found. Thank you.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, we want to see the perpetrators held to justice properly, and we will be supporting India to do so.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Nick Timothy.
Thank you. Earlier, I asked the Minister to tell members of the House who play the politics of communalism to stop playing with fire. He not only failed to do so, but he attacked me for observing the undoubted tensions and sometimes even violence we see in this country as foreign conflicts play out here alone. Can you advise on whether the Minister can withdraw this attack, and if he simply misheard my question, to allow him to answer it now? This is a very serious issue indeed.
Minister, would you like to respond?
Mr. Speaker, as I understood the question, the honourable gentleman was suggesting that there had been too much immigration from presumably both India and Pakistan over the last period, and that was leading to communalism within constituencies across the country. This government... I'm seeking...
Is he going to carry on from a central position?
I have been absolutely clear from this dispatch box that I want to see no communal tensions in the UK. I've called for calm repeatedly. If the honourable gentleman is saying he believes too much immigration has led to these tensions,